Before Walt Disney Pictures became an evil corporation telling fragile young minds to wish upon a star and your dreams will come true, and young girls to submit to a Prince Charming and everything will be alright, it was an innovator in the animated films. With the success of the Mickey Mouse shorts and added revenue coming in with all the merchandising that came with it, Walt Disney began experimenting with the animated short with his Silly Symphonies. These 6 to 8 minute shorts tested the audience's attention span with abstract stories like the skeleton dance and new techniques like the multiplane camera first used in the old mill. As the years went on, Disney set his sights on feature-length films starting in 1937 with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was a monumental success and cleared the way for Disney to make other features, each one more experimental than the last, but subtly so that the audience wouldn't suspect that they were being experimented on. In 1940, Disney released Pinocchio. While on the surface this film was not very experimental, it was just a story about a wooden puppet who tries to be a real boy. However, this film had more developed characters than Snow White did, and it actually had a moral to the story even though it was simplistic. Also in 1940 came Fantasia, a more experimental film than the previous two. This time the film as a whole didn't have a true story, but more vignettes modeled after classical pieces like Bach's Toccata and Fugue and Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony. It's also experimented with telling a serious story in the animated world without dialogue. It was a commercial failure originally, but artistically it was a rousing success, and hailed by animation fans as one of the greatest animated films ever made. 1941 saw the release of Dumbo. While this was a simple story of an elephant that can fly, it was also experimental as it was the first Disney feature to use animals as the main characters. Who would spend their money and time to watch a film without humans in it? Financially, it was Disney's biggest success in the 1940s, and just show me a person who doesn't get a little misty-eyed during Baby Mine.
Why am I going through the history of Disney features? Why am I being so nice to them? Surely there's something wrong with this gigantic corporation. Of course there is. But that's another episode. This episode is about Bambi.
Originally released in 1942, Bambi was the fifth Disney feature, and it combined all the lessons learned from the previous four. Here we have an emotional story told with little to no dialogue. The actual count is under 1,000 words, where the main characters are animals. And these animals are not the usual funny cartoon animals like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. These are realistically drawn animals. Just look at the way Bambi and his mother are drawn and now compare them to the deer featured in Snow White. This was only in the span of 5 years, and the difference is shocking.
In my house growing up, Bambi was outlawed. Mainly because Bambi's mom got shot. That was it. But looking at it as an adult, there's so much more to this movie than, oh, Bambi's mom got shot. It's, well, let's look at it closely.
The story is really just a basic, simple story of the first year of Bambi's life. He gets born, he meets new friends, he experiences snow, he learns about the dangers of the forest, learns about loss, learns about love, learns about defending someone's honor, and then he has his own children. Really the circle of life.
Where have I heard that before?
But when you think about it, the story of Bambi is probably the most mature story Disney has ever produced this side of Fantasia. Yes, you have the cute characters.
We'll get into that later.
But all the shit that Bambi goes through during that first year is pretty harrowing. If I was a kid and saw this film, I'd be pretty fucked up.
Okay, more fucked up than I am now.
Yet, There it is on the big screen for all of us to see. It's like the animated version of The Seventh Seal. By God, is this a beautiful movie. I mean, look at this opening sequence. Disney's multiplane camera was working overtime on this one. The backgrounds were inspired by the eastern woodlands of Maine and Vermont, with preliminary sketches done by Maurice Day. The amazing lifelike details of the forest shines in here. The animals are just as lifelike, with work inspired by Rico Lebrun, a noted wildlife artist. In fact, Disney wanted the animation to be so lifelike that production was delayed. Animators who usually would put out 10 feet of film per day were slowed down to only half a foot of film a day just to get the animation as precise and as lifelike as Disney wanted it.
But when things get dark, boy do they get dark.
Just look at this fight sequence between Bambi and his rival. Bambi goes to the darkest reaches of his soul during this fight, a place that Bambi has never been before and where we never see him reach, yet the art speaks for itself. The sequence is almost abstract, the way it's portrayed on screen, but God is it beautiful.
Of course, a Disney movie wouldn't be a Disney movie without memorable characters.
Disney films have always had a knack of producing cute, furry woodland creatures. Yet they were always helping Snow White clean or Cinderella make a dress. They never really had an integral part of the story except for getting from point A to point B. This film has them in abundance, yet they never really go over the top with their cuteness. However, for a film as adult as Bambi is, it has the most marketable characters for children.
And I'll give you one word. Thumper.
Remember when I said this film had less than 1,000 words of dialogue? Well, this guy has most of them. Bambi's best friend is pretty much the glue that holds the film together for a larger audience. He provides the comic relief, gives children a character to relate to, and captures the innocence that we once had as children. And it was all because Disney did something that studios rarely did. Cast a child in the voice role.
If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Because of 4-year-old Peter Bean's genuine performance, Thumper transformed from a 2-dimensional drawing into a 3-dimensional character.
Of course, a film isn't a film without a villain. And Disney gives us one of the most memorable villains of all film history. Us.
Listen. He's coming. Hush. Be quiet. He's coming closer. Be calm. Don't get excited. We'd better fly. No, don't fly. Whatever you do, don't fly. He's almost here. I can't stand it any longer.
This is again where Bambi is more than just a Disney cartoon. For years, Disney dabbled with the traditional villain, a heavy, an evil queen, the devil, con men. But in the world of Bambi, we get to know nature, and nature's greatest enemy is, in fact, man. From man's killing of Bambi's mom to man burning down the entire forest, man is probably the most destructive villain in all of Disney's films. Even Darth Vader wouldn't stand a chance against this foe. Because of this haunting villain, hunters started to speak out against this film at the time of release, saying that it was an insult to the American sportsman.
I wonder what Sarah Palin would say about this film.
Bambi, with its beautiful art, memorable characters, and haunting villain, unfortunately had an uphill battle to climb at the time of its release. The United States had just joined World War II, and European markets were closed off because of this. European markets were a big contributor to Disney's successes with his feature films, and since that was closed off, Bambi was a financial disappointment. Disney didn't make an actual animated feature until 1950's Cinderella, but unfortunately it didn't have the same artistic mastery as the first 5 Disney features. If Bambi was a success, or even if there wasn't a World War II, one could only wonder what the next grand animated experiment would be.
Fuck you, Adolf Hitler. Fuck you up your motherfucking ass. I'm Zack Scott, and I'll see you on the next Laserdisc Memories.
Love is a song that never ends. Life may be swift and fleeting. Hope may die, yet love's beautiful music comes each day like the dawn.
Gosh, that's awful.
Gee whiz, terrible.